Christmas Day, as the 25th of December, began in 17th century England, celebrating and commemorating the birth of Christ as the first day of the 12 days of Christmas, which were the last 6 days in December and the first 6 days of January every New Year. Out with the old and in with the new. Celebrations and partying. Christmas Day itself was a public holiday in England, with shops and offices and other places of work all closed, and people went to church to attend special services. Over the following 11 days, there were further special church services, with shops and businesses open daily, only intermittently or for shorter hours than normal. The celebration of all 12 days of Christmas were similar, but differed between city and countryside, rich and poor, godly and not so godly, as churches, public buildings, and private houses were decorated with holly and ivory, rosemary, and symbolic ornaments. People visited family and friends and colleagues, eating and drinking and exchanging presents. The rich distributed boxes containing money to servants and tradesmen and the poor. Special food and drink included turkey and beef and mince pies and plum porridge and specially brewed Christmas ale. Taverns and tap houses did a roaring trade. Occasionally there were fireworks, and also the concept of a Father Christmas, more as a figure that oversaw the community celebrations than as someone who gave presents to children. Christmas was 12 days of holiday leisure, choices of eating and drinking to excess, of dancing and singing, gambling, games and theater, and options in drunkenness and sexual immorality. A period where normal rules and self-control were self-suspended and some pretended morality rules did not apply, much like Mardi Gras. Godly people came to frown upon this celebration of Christmas for two reasons. Firstly, they disliked all the waste, extravagance, disorder, sin, and immorality of the Christmas celebrations. Secondly, they saw Christmas, which is a Catholic term meaning Christ's Mass. They saw it as an unwelcome survival of the Roman Catholic faith, as a ceremony particularly encouraged by the Catholic Church with no biblical justification. Nowhere had God called upon mankind to celebrate Christ's nativity in this way, they said. The godly wanted a much stricter observance of the Lord's Day, Sundays, but the abolition of the Pope created an often sinful celebration of Christmas, as well as of Easter and other festivals and saints' days of that time. In the early 1640s, England's Parliament began the process of clamping down on the celebration of Christmas, pushing the term Christ-tide instead of Christ Mass, thus doing away with the Mass element and its Catholic roots. Should be kept, if at all, merely as a day of fasting and seeking the Lord. In January 1642, shortly before Civil War began, Parliament declared the last Wednesday in each month should be kept as a fast day. Many hoped that Christ-tide, 25 December, would come to be seen and kept as just an addition to those regular fast days. Parliament actually worked as usual on 25 December 1643. Parliament noted that in late 1644 that 25 December would fall on the last Wednesday of the month, the day of the regular monthly fast. And Parliament stressed that 25 December was strictly to be kept as a time of fasting and humiliation for remembering the sins of those who in the past had turned the day into a feast, sinfully and wrongfully giving liberty to carnal and sensual delights. Both houses of Parliament attended intense fasting sermons on 25 December 1644. In January 1645, a group of ministers appointed by Parliament produced a new public worship directory for England and Wales. The directory made clear that Sundays alone were to be strictly observed as holy days for the worship of God, and no other holy days were specified in the Holy Bible. No more festival days, vulgarly called holy days. Parliament passed a law adopting the Directory of Public Worship as the only form of legal worship to be allowed, abolishing any other forms of worship and church services, therefore prohibited, on paper at least, the religious celebration of all other holy days, including Christmas. In June 1647, Parliament passed an ordinance confirming the abolition of the feasts of Christmas, Easter, and others. Specific penalties were imposed on anyone found holding or attending a special Christmas church service. It was ordered that shops and markets were to stay open on 25 December. The Lord Mayor was repeatedly ordered to ensure that London stayed open for business on 25 December. Now, against the law, the celebrations of Christmas were abolished, but 25 December remained a day of religious significance and as a secular holiday. Religious services marking Christ's nativity continued to be held on 25 December. During the late 1640s, attempts to prevent public celebrations and to force shops and businesses to stay open caused brutal violence and fights between supporters and opponents of Christmas in many towns, including London, Canterbury, various St. Edmunds, and Norwich. Many public writers continued to argue in print, usually anonymously, that it was proper to mark Christ's birth on 25 December and that the secular government had no right to interfere. During the Restoration, the Directory of Public Worship and all the other laws of religion enacted from 1642 to 1660 were declared null and void. Religious and Mardi Gras elements of the full 12 days of Christmas could once again be celebrated openly, in public, and with renewed exuberance and wide popular support. The attack on Christmas had failed. The Pilgrims were English separatists that came to America in 1620. Even more orthodox than in their Puritan beliefs than Oliver Cromwell. As a result, Christmas was not a holiday in early America from 1659 to 1681. The celebration of Christmas was actually outlawed in Boston. Anyone exhibiting the Christmas spirit was fined 5 shillings. By contrast, in the Jamestown settlement, Captain John Smith reported that Christmas was enjoyed by all and passed without incident. After the American Revolution, English customs fell out of favor, including Christmas. In fact, Congress was in session on December 25th, 1789. The first Christmas under America's new Constitution. Christmas wasn't declared a federal holiday until June 26, 1870. It wasn't until the 19th century that Americans began to embrace Christmas. Americans reinvented Christmas and changed it from a raucous carnival holiday into a family-centered day of peace and goodwill to all men from God's love for all mankind. The early 19th century was a period of class conflict and turmoil. During this time, unemployment was high and gang rioting by the disenchanted classes often occurred during the Christmas season. In 1828, the New York City Council instituted the city's first police force in response to a Christmas riot. In 1819, best-selling author Washington Irving wrote the sketchbook of Geoffrey Crayon, a series of stories about the celebration of Christmas in an English manor house. The sketches feature a squire who invited the peasants into his home for the holiday. In contrast to the problems faced in American society, the two groups lived in peace. In Irving's mind, Christmas should be a peaceful, warm-hearted holiday, bringing groups together across lines of wealth or social status. Before the Civil War, many Northerners saw sin in the celebrations of Christmas. To these people, the celebration of Thanksgiving was more appropriate. But in the South, Christmas was an important part of the social fabric. Not surprisingly, the first 3 states to make Christmas a legal holiday were in the South: Alabama in 1836, Louisiana and Arkansas in 1838. In the years after the Civil War, Christmas traditions spread quickly across the country. Children's books played an important role in spreading the customs of celebrating Christmas, especially the tradition of trimmed trees and gifts delivered by Santa Claus. Christian Sunday school classes encouraged the celebration of Christmas. New women's magazines were also very important in suggesting ways to decorate for the holidays, as well as how to make these decorations. Finally, on June 26, 1870, Christmas was declared a national holiday by our federal government. By 1875, America passionately decorated Christmas trees, sang Christmas carols, baked Christmas goodies, and Christmas shopped for family and friends. Since that time, materialism and media and advertising and mass marketing has made Christmas what it is today. The traditions that we enjoy at Christmas today were invented by blending together customs from many different countries into what is considered by many to be our national holiday. Christmas is American. We own it now. We celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ on December 25th.